All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about Idols. This is a band that, in just a few short years, has become one of the most talked about, celebrated, and genuinely divisive acts to come out of Britain in a very, very long time. They're just this explosion of sound and opinion, but believe me, their success was anything but overnight. So this question right here really gets to the heart of their story. For nearly a decade, these guys were just grinding it out, trying to find their footing. And then bam, they suddenly connected in this massive way. So how on earth did that happen? How did that long, slow burn finally lead to an absolute explosion? First up, let's quickly get our bearings on what they actually sound like. People love to slap the post-punk label on them, and you can for sure hear that. But really, their music is this kind of cocktail of influences. You've got punk rock, post-hardcore, even some art rock in there. And what's really important to know is that frontman Joe Talbot has even rejected the punk label himself, which just goes to show you, right from the start, they were dead set on carving out their own space. So let's rewind and see how this all began, because their origin story is really all about patience and persistence. This was not a band that was manufactured for a quick hit. It was forged slowly and deliberately over a very long time. Now, what's really wild when you look at this slide is just the sheer amount of time it lays out. I mean, they formed in 2009. Their first EP doesn't come out for another 3 years. And their debut album, Brutalism, that didn't drop until 2017. That is an 8-year journey just to get a debut album out. You can kind of see the turning point right around 2015, where they really started leaning into that harder edge sound, which totally set the stage for what was about to happen. And this quote, this just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't some music critic's opinion. This is the lead singer, Joe Talbot, being brutally honest about the band's own journey. And that self-awareness, that willingness to admit they struggled for a while, that's become a core part of their whole identity. So after 8 long years of trying to find their voice, that voice finally broke through. Their 2017 debut album, Brutalism, was the moment that slow burn finally caught fire. This is where absolutely everything changed for Idols. And the critics? They heard it immediately. The praise was just overwhelming. You see words like exciting, vital, relentless, and rage. Now think about that for a second. For a debut album from a band that had been grinding away for 8 years, getting this kind of unified, explosive praise is just incredibly rare. They didn't just get good reviews. They were instantly hailed as this necessary, urgent force in music. It was like the whole scene had just been waiting for a voice exactly like theirs. But there's a really deep personal story behind this breakthrough. Brutalism is just fueled by grief. Joe Talbot's mother passed away after a long illness while they were making the album, and that's her photograph right there on the cover. The band has said her death gave them this profound, intense new focus, and they channeled all of that pain and love straight into the music. So how in the world do you follow up a debut that raw and that acclaimed? Well, you do it by doubling down on your message. Their second album, Joy as an Act of Resistance, wasn't just a follow-up. It was a full-blown statement that cemented their place in the industry for good. And the industry took notice in a huge way. A nomination for the super prestigious Mercury Prize, a win at the Ivor Novello Awards for Best Album, a Kerrang Award. This wasn't just critical buzz anymore. This was mainstream recognition that proved Idols were a serious, absolutely undeniable force. Of course, with that bigger platform came a much, much bigger spotlight. As the band's success blew up, so did the scrutiny of their outspoken political stances, which brought them both widespread support and some really pointed criticism. And when I say their platform got bigger, I mean it got massive. We're talking 2 UK #1 albums, Ultra Mono in 2020 and then TANGK in 2024. Both went straight to the top of the charts. This took them from an acclaimed cult band to a certified mainstream success, and suddenly every single word they said or sang was amplified. Okay, so let's unpack this because it's a really key part of their story and it touches on a much wider conversation that's happening in music right now. The band faced criticism, particularly from the punk duo Bob Vylan. First, they were called out for what was perceived as commercial silence right after the murder of George Floyd. Idol's response was that they wanted to take their time to make sure their contribution would be genuinely helpful, not just performative virtue signaling. And this right here, this highlights a really central tension for artists with a political message. When does thoughtful silence become complicity? And when does a quick response become, just empty posturing? Later, similar criticism came up regarding the Palestinian cause. After this, the band began to openly voice support at their shows, changing lyrics and leading chants of "ceasefire now." This whole dynamic is so important because it shows that as a band's platform grows, so does the expectation to use it, and the debate over the right way to do that becomes incredibly public and complex. All right, so that brings us pretty much up to date to their more recent work, where the band has just continued to evolve, pushing their sound into brand new territories and collaborating in some truly unexpected ways. And nothing, I mean nothing, shows their creative and, let's be honest, hilarious side better than this. For their song Grace, Joe Talbot literally had a dream that the music video was just Coldplay's iconic video for Yellow, but with Chris Martin singing their song instead. So what did they do? They just asked Chris Martin. And not only did he approve, he actually filmed himself singing their song to help train the deepfake AI. The result is bizarre, it's brilliant, and it is pure idols. And their creative reach is expanding way beyond music videos. They recently scored the entire feature film Caught Stealing for the acclaimed director Darren Aronofsky. Aronofsky himself said he wanted to mainline a punk sensibility right into his film and knew that idols were the perfect band to do it. Think about that. From playing small clubs in Bristol to scoring Hollywood movies. That is quite the evolution. So from those early days of being, in their own words, fucking terrible, to winning major awards, topping the charts, and now scoring films for legendary directors, man, it's been an incredible ride. And they are not slowing down one bit, with work on their 6th album already underway. Their journey is just this constant state of evolution. Which leaves us with the big question, the one that really defines Idol's impact. Are they a voice of unity, using their platform to champion empathy and community? Or does their confrontational, politically charged approach inevitably create division? Perhaps the answer is that they're both. And maybe that's exactly the point.